I was there for such a short time, though, wasn't I?
Right, that's good. My headphones are connected now. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah,
can you see the presentation?
Sorry, say again?
Can you see the shared screen that says Mimco Research?
Yes.
I can, yeah. I know Carl's not joining us. I have a suspicion James is probably not going to join. I don't know about Ron and Sally. I don't know if you just want to give them a minute or two, see if they join on, or...
Sally said that she was struggling for tonight, but I'll email this PowerPoint thing anyhow afterwards. I've not heard from Ron.
Okay, in that case, let's crack on.
Yeah, we'll just get going. Like I said, it's not legal advice, it's just general findings from the internet that kind of we might just want to be aware of to support our process going forward. Sorry
to interrupt, though. Is it worth just recording it? Because I know Carl asked if we could record it and he'd get in touch with you later for a copy.
Oh, that's fancy. I don't know how you record.
I can't do it, I don't think, from here, because, I've not scheduled a meeting, but if you go on your Teams menu to the little icon with the 3 dots, it should have an option on there for start recording and transcript.
Right, 1 second. It'll just want me to...
Nice haircut, Mr. Taylor.
Sorry?
Like the haircut, Mr. Taylor, very smart.
Yes. I actually haven't had a haircut, I've had the ears lowered.
I'm sorry, say again?
I said I haven't had a haircut, I've had my ears lowered.
Ah. Okay, let's just crack.
Is got dormant status at Company's House. Company can be active because that means it's incorporated, but dormant because it's not trading. So it can't have any significant costs and it can't have any significant transactions. So when
Did you hear what Julie said there?
No, it was an echo from me.
Oh, was it? Oh, sorry.
Julie, might be worth if you can just mute your mic, because I think there we go.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Cheers, Julie. Cheers, thanks.
So the setup to hold assets such as the freehold properties and leasehold properties, but they're not normally used to hold assets. So it would be strange if the company of Mimco held anything outside of the head lease. So I know there's been some discussion about the fact that Mimco owns the gym and it owns all the other land and it owns this. It wouldn't fit with what a normal company is, a normal dormant company, but it doesn't mean that that's wrong. It's just something to be aware of. Whereas the dormant company as well, it shouldn't be. It can be taken to court, but it can't meet any obligations beyond that because it doesn't do anything. It's just like it has no revenue. It can't have revenue. It can't have a bank account. It can't have a VAT number. Anything like this then classifies it as a trading company, and we don't want to make it a trading company, I wouldn't have thought, because it protects the head lease if it's a dormant company. And if we lose the head lease reads as a very traditional sort of rental agreement lease where Griff then has the right to property and right to access and all sorts of things like that. So the dormant company looks like it's done to protect the head lease and is very different from a right to manage company. That's just the research on that bit.
The other thing is, Mimco was given to us by Binks, and I said to Stuart in the week, if it had any assets or any value in it, there is no way Binks would have been giving it up for nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the first right to refusal, which is the Section 5A, which is something that we've been briefly looking into as well as part of the board, it's saying about how there's the potential of buying the ground rent back off Griff if it was done through spurious means. However, the case law on this reads that, for example, a block of flats is owned by a freeholder, Smith. He grants the lease of the whole building to Brown for a term of 100 years. Brown then grants the lease of 99 years for each of the separate flats. In this case, Brown is the immediate landlord of the individual leaseholders for the flats, who would have provided the first right of refusal when he intended to sell the 100-year lease known as the head lease. Smith is the freeholder and not the intermediate landlord of the flats, and would be free to dispose even without Brown having to offer it to the flat owners first. So this is just effectively the piece of case law trimmed down that says that the right Section 5A won't apply to us because it was transferred. Mimco was held by Binks, and Binks basically sold the land, the freehold off, and agreed it with themselves. So taking a lot of this sort of legal status stuff from the Solid case, because that whole case file is available online, where it does say that basically we've got a lease of 999 years less 1 day, which forms the underlease. So Section 5A for us, it isn't.
It doesn't apply.
It's not going to be able to be applied because
it doesn't apply because with being set up Mimco would have they owned Mimco, so Mimco agreed to sell it to Binks or whoever Binks wanted to, so they were selling it within their own format, and then didn't actually have to apply to the individual leaseholders because there was a Mimco was in that gap.
That's why. So sorry, I know you said leave question to the end, but that's why then that there was never a Section 5 notice put out to leaseholders.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they didn't need to, because they'd already there was no requirement under the terms of the lease, and and what requirements were in place, they'd already given themselves the relevant permission because they were Mimco.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right, okay, I'm clear on that. That makes sense.
Okay.
So
that's actually a question that no one's ever answered before.
Yeah, well, hopefully that's the purpose of this, just to feedback bits we've found. Anyhow, so the Solids versus Mimco case, just to give some clarity as to why they won, it was basically just due to when you read the case file, they lost due to the insufficient time scale that they had to secure an alternative quote for the excessive insurance costs, and it basically reads as it's Watson and the old Mimco board's apathy towards proactively finding an insurance that matched the terms of the lease. So they basically won for laziness.
Now the important of that is, or do you talk about it later, where Mimco was defined as the leaseholder?
Yeah, anyhow, the reason why I was reading that case is because of this statement here. So the statement that's in bold is pulled directly from the case. And so for case law, if it's being written out in one judgment, in one jurisdiction, then it's applicable
everywhere,
across the board. Unless, if this wasn't classified as okay, then we could go back and get this case thrown out and the Solids wouldn't have won the case because, that's just the way case law works. Anyhow, so this, again, the statement that's in bold is taken directly from the judgment. So the landlord, as referred to in the head lease, was the freeholder and is now Griff. The tenant, as referred to in the head lease, is the landlord in the underlease, and that is now Mimco. So it's the freeholder is the landlord, as referred to in the head lease. So that relevant person statement, it is Griff that is the landlord.
And that is being judged by a judge who's defined this for us in a legal case, which sets precedent, which is where a lot of English law comes from. So once he said that,
definition means, and sorry again for interrupting, but the letter we got back and the email we got back from Griff yesterday actually verifies a lot of what you're saying here, because they've said the same thing. But following this argument that in this case law they're referred to as a relevant landlord, this then means that they could potentially still be liable for the EWS1 because they've been defined in case law as a relevant landlord, and that can transfer across. Okay, so that counteracts his claim that they're not liable. That's good. That's good to know. Okay.
And that's why if you read that letter from them, they're actually being quite nice and finding out like what information we've got and stuff, because they obviously aren't going to commit to paper wholeheartedly that we're the landlords, will pay for everything, because why would they? But they are, let's find a solution together on this. It's a lot nicey, whereas if they knew they were completely off the hook, they'd be saying a different tune.
Yeah.
I do think that letter's interesting though, because it does a number of things. Firstly, it throws Watsons and the old board under the bus on a number of fronts.
Yeah.
Secondly, they're pointing us in the direction of building safety funding. They seem to be the opinion that's the way forward. And of course they're going to promote that over simply saying, we've got a liability, we're going to get our hands in our pockets. But it is a nicey letter, which tells me that, they could be on the hook for something.
So that's exactly how I read that letter as well. But this is a graphic that kind of just breaks it down that we've got Griff as the landlord, Mimco as the underleasee. Mimco can't do anything, can't make any decisions, can't hold contracts, can't hold bank accounts, can't be really held responsible for anything legally. So when people are suing Mimco, it's a bit spurious because their ability to do anything, it never seems to be challenged by Watson. So when people are filing these claims and stuff against Mimco, it should be going back that Mimco is a dormant company registered purely to hold the head lease and has no legal responsibility beyond being the format that holds the head lease, and all of any building management is Watson.
So if you take the case of John is suing. I always liken it to this car in a garage, which is a perfectly good car, it's perfectly drivable, but it's not got any road insurance, it's not got any DVLA approvals, so it's just a car in a garage. And as long as it's sat in the car in the garage, it's perfectly legal, as long as you don't take it on the road. Now, it cannot, in that status, accrue any liabilities because it's dormant, it's not doing anything. So for John to be suing Mimco is like me taking a car and suing that driver because his car's been parked on the road or it's been in an accident or it's been speeding. How can it be? Because it's dormant, it's in a garage and it isn't moving. So Mimco, and I don't think Watson, have actually pursued this. I think they've actually thrown Mimco under the bus all the time and said it's Mimco's liability, But Mimco, as long as we don't change its status, has never traded. And if you've never traded, how can you be liable for something? Because you haven't done anything.
Okay, on that front, I would say a couple of things. Just purely putting these out there without really. Sorry, I'm not meaning to do what happened the other night and relayed you. I think it's just I'll forget the questions otherwise. I can understand Watson's using Mimco as a shield and wasting everyone's time and money and depleting everyone's efforts to distract from attention. That makes perfect sense to me. They're doing it deliberately or out of ignorance. The two things that don't make sense to me is, one, we as Mimco signed a contract with Watson's, which what you're telling me is that we shouldn't have done that. So has that by default made us a trading company? Number two question is, in the Blakey case, I would have thought that Jones' lawyers would have been switched on enough to know that the status of Mimco and that a case against them simply is pointless. And that's the bit I'm struggling with. I just don't think for 1 minute in the world, given how our lawyers are mopping the floor with us, as James put it the other night, I just don't see that they wouldn't be switched on enough. There's something we must be missing. But I mean, we can stick a pin in that question for now, no problem. But do you see my point there? There's got to be something we're not seeing. Guys, you still there? You frozen?
Are we frozen?
Yeah, we're still here.
You're unfroze. And I don't mean that to sound in any way like I'm taking away from the research you've done. That's one of the questions that I think we need to fire over to James or someone is based on your findings. Why haven't
James fires a lot, but actually doesn't do a lot. I would actually rather put this to an actual lawyer, because what I'm concerned about, if we're going around signing contracts, and if we're going around saying we're doing this and we're doing that, and we do it as Mimco, we are then starting to trade with Mimco. If Mimco goes broke or bust, every individual apartment owner loses the right to the lease, because it all reverts direct to Griff. That's why it was done like that.
And that's why legally we shouldn't be trading it, because the head lease reads very riskily for individual leaseholders. If Mimco is to fold and to cease and to not be in a thing anymore, that Griff basically gets to take possession of everyone's apartments. It's how it reads in a basic term. Not saying that that's what would happen, but it reads concerningly in Griff's favour.
And I don't admit, I did read it very much with the same understanding.
Yeah.
And I noticed the letter yesterday glazes over that, but the letter they've had from our anonymous friends does not glaze over it and makes it very clear in my mind that that's what they're pushing for.
Yeah. Now, my thinking is that when a management company, Watson, are asked to set up a management company under the right to manage scheme, they do this by setting up a separate company, which is a company under the limited liability under guarantee, which I've run one of them for 30 years historically, so I do understand the law on that. And that company would issue one share to all the leaseholders, to every apartment, and then that would be the trading company, not Mimco. And that's what I think we should be doing urgently.
And I think that's what, reading briefly, what Faraz was saying, that we need a right to manage company that is different from Mimco. So Mimco holds the head lease and sits quietly doing nothing, building up no liabilities.
Yes.
And we have a fresh right to manage company.
Exactly.
Can I just interrupt very quickly and just show you something? Can I share my screen?
Yeah,
Is that possible?
sharing.
Okay, right. Let's see where more actions. I don't know why it's not come up with the usual window it comes up with, so I'm struggling finding stuff.
It might be if you're not the host.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, share desktop. Right, okay. Right. Can you now see my screen?
Yes.
So this is the management agreement with Watson's. Yeah? Clearly states the client, Millroyd Island Management Company Limited. Signed on behalf of the client. I don't know whose signatures they are. Now, company secretary will presumably be one of the Watson's wenches.
What year is that?
Sorry?
2020.
So that's
2020.
Right.
I don't know whose signature this is.
Is it Vicky Riley?
No, it would be a big crayon cross if it was Vicky. With a lipstick mark. I don't know. It could be Vicky Riley. Now, my understanding about this though is it was actually, and I'll have to check with Sally. Sally said that they discovered this had been signed before they got in, and if you look at the date, 17th of January 2020, and the commencement date 2nd of January, probably she's right. So actually, none of the previous board might have signed this, and this might be the signatures from old Mimco. But I just can't make out the signature.
Oh, is that Harriet Binks?
Well, there would have been the Binks family on there.
It's Helen Harriet.
Helen Binks.
Or whatever her surname is now.
But that looks like
A D.
a D. US.
Is she Helen Davis now, though?
Yeah, is she something else now? Is she something like Helen Davis?
That rings a bell. Davis.
But Helen Davis is Helen Binks.
Is Helen Binks, yeah.
Okay, but what's interesting though, if I quickly go to the last page,
is it's not being signed.
But this last page is authorisation to retain interest.
Did you look at what I sent you?
But it's not signed.
It's all super dodgy.
Brilliant.
It really is, isn't it?
Brilliant.
It really is.
Which is why we need an independent lawyer quickly just to tell us which way to go on this.
I'm inclined to agree. I think we're just building up a lot of questions now. With all the best will in the world, I think Ed and James are probably onto something. Let them crack on with what they're doing, but I do think we need to get an independent lawyer. The problem we're having is no one wants to touch us. Nobody seems to want to touch us because of potential conflicts of interest.
So I've got a friend who is a lawyer who is finding us a property law EWS specialist company in Leeds, and she come back to me today and said that she's found a couple of people that would be interested from a legal perspective at helping us out.
And that was you asking us last week, Stuart, if you remember, to say could we go and find some sort of lawyer?
Yeah, well, you saw the list of ones I've approached, yeah?
Yeah.
They've slowly pretty much started coming back this week, and well, the feedback from one of them was basically we can't touch it, conflict of interest. And if you think about it, of course there's going to be a conflict of interest with a lot of property lawyers because Schroders play a part in this, and Griff. So chances are a lot of big name property lawyers have the dealings with them and won't touch us.
Well,
but anyway, I mean, let's hope that this person that Steph can do something on it. But yeah, do you want to go back to sharing your screen now and then? Yeah.
Just the last point, which was for people with remortgages or anything like that that's coming up, is this weird thing called the deed of certificate, which is what the mortgage companies are asking for to be able to move ahead with refinancing of anyone's properties. It's very weird in that it seems like it's a completely self-certified process where all you do is print it off the internet as the leaseholder, sign it, send it into Watson and Mimco and say that, this is my deed of certificate, because it's all to do with as an individual whether you owned more than 3 properties on that specified date in February and all this sort of stuff. That deed of certificate doesn't need to be ratified, doesn't need to be accepted by Mimco, Watson, anyone. You just need to send a copy in, keep a copy for yourself, and that's all the mortgage company seems to be asking for. I don't know whether that'll hold water, but we need to refinance one of our flats, so I'm going to see if it does and go from there, really. But I know that a lot of people will be coming up to changing mortgages, and without the deed of certificate, you won't be able to get anything refinanced, or you'll struggle to.
A couple of questions on this front as well. I mean, obviously, my sort of understanding on this is if someone does self-certifies and then they sell, which is different than remortgage, granted, but they sell, I'm pretty sure that they're accepting liability in the case that there is a bill at the end of this, and the buyer would then have a right to go back to that person and say, well, you self-certified, it's not applicable, therefore you owe me $6,000 or whatever. And I think people need to be wary of that. My other question here is, if a lot of people start to self-certify, are they essentially then accepting liability, which could then damage it for everyone else in the building who's not needing to self-certify because there's an admission of liability by... So, for example, 136 apartments, let's say 10 decide to remortgage and fill the form in. Is that 10 parties that have then accepted liability that can then be used to question who's actually liable for the other 126? Does that make sense?
It does, but I don't... From reading it, because the individualised circumstances are so much about how many flats you owned and do you qualify under the leaseholder's guarantee, which the leaseholder's guarantee is, basically if you owned less than 3 apartments on the 14th of February 2022. I thought it was 2020. Maybe 2022, I can't remember the exact year. And then is your building a relevant building, as in do the leaseholders own a part of the building? Well, no, we don't own a part of the building. There is a head lease in place, but the head lease doesn't make everybody own part of the building, as I understand it. So
the other thing, Stuart, is if people want to do it, there's nothing we can do to stop them. There's no.
That's true as well. That's also a good point as well. There is nothing we can do to stop them, and unfortunately, don't be offended by what I'm going to say now. When people need to remortgage, they're going to look out. No one's going to want to pay massive interest, and if they see this as a way around it. People are going to look out for their own interest over the expense of 120 or 135 other people. So yeah, it's there's not a lot we can do, I don't think.
I think they're just wanting a register of who owned the property on that date in February. And
yeah, I mean, hopefully that's what it is, from a point of view of establishing potential liability after the fact, should it default to individual leaseholders. Hopefully that's what it is, and it doesn't set a precedent. That's my only worry with this. And as you say, there's no end of people in the building facing this same problem that are going to have to look to remortgage in the next few weeks and months.
Yeah.
So if it's not you guys, someone else is going to do it. So we're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
The other aspect of this, Stuart, is if we can get a legal company on board, all these questions are just done to the legal company, and we can crack on. Because the other thing I've not cracked on with is I wanted to speak to Andy, who's...
Andy Howe.
Yeah, about what he could get the decking for, because he was saying about 1,500 quid an apartment, and when I've read the fire break we need to do, we only have to do 3 floors, say 2, 4 and 6.
Yeah.
And if we can do it without the scaffolding, i.e. we're just going in, lifting a deck up, replacing it with a new one, lifting a deck up, replacing it with a new one, and maybe having to use a bit of safety harness stuff to make sure...
Like they do when they wash the windows.
Like they do when they wash the windows. Then in that case, we should be able to do it for about 30 grand, tops.
Well, the interesting one about that is, although Watsons themselves, for their preferred quote, are saying... it's so expensive because of scaffolding, safety concerns, structural integrity, the balcony, they have to be scaffolded, rah, rah, rah. But yet their second quote they put in the submission is for rope access. So that, for me, doesn't make sense either. I think, why are you giving us non-like-for-like quotes? And if you're saying that one's not admissible because it doesn't factor in this, why have you included it?
Yeah.
So that also doesn't raise... I can see that there may be structural elements to the balcony once the boards are lifted up. I mean, are they structurally still sound? And I do get the health and safety concerns, but I think it's a question that does need to be looked into. Is rope access possible?
Yeah, and people have over the years changed the balcony anyhow, the wood, because it's rotted. So I've seen
true.
people...
That's actually very fucking true.
Yeah, we actually replaced our wood on ours because it was rotted. Yeah, we had to do ours.
So, and they didn't scaffold the whole building, did they, Julie?
My tenant did it.
Oh, Julie!
He bought new decking boards and he put them
Julie,
down.
stop talking, you're in violation of lease. You're in violation of lease.
Well,
stop talking.
Yeah, well...
No, but
the lease clearly states any repairs to the external building have to be undertaken by Watsons. Ka-ching, ka-ching, money grab, money grab.
Actually, Stu, thinking about it, they're the original ones and they just lasted really well.
Yeah.
But actually, Julie, I mean, all joking aside, that's a good point. I mean, Ralph and Lynn, Ralph changed his with composite and did it all himself. And no one, it's amazing, no one batted an eyelid, no one questioned it or anything. Watsons are never, and the freeholders, never going to let us do it ourselves. I do think Watsons could compromise and say to individual leaseholders, here's the spec, here's the list of companies you should be getting it from, this is the price range we'd expect you to pay, which is circa 1,500 to 2,000, and we'll send someone round to certify it's done as per standard after installation. that would keep the cost down considerably for everyone. But then, I tell you what, you're still going to have the same problem of getting leaseholders to do it.
With regards to the aluminium decking, when I looked into it, with the better grade as well, not the A2, the A1, and a couple of companies I spoke to basically said, with an overhead chop saw, it is a DIY job. So...
Wow.
And Alidec that put in the quote for these balconies, when I contacted Alidec and asked them for a price for my balcony, the price of the products was £1,200, and I was quoted from Watson's £3,700. So I don't know where you get from £1,200 for my tiny balcony to £3,700 or £3,900, what it was. That's a huge increase.
Julie,
I can point it out. I'm not even getting a balcony, and mine was 6.5.
Yeah.
Julie,
yeah.
I've actually got the quotes Watson's got. I've got 2 of the 3 in front of me, but they range from 180,000 to £520,000.
Yeah. And I think their cut was going to be 54k. I think from my letter.
Yes.
No, and the rest.
Yeah. Now my plan. I spoke to James 2 weeks ago before we got going, because my thinking was straight away, if we can get a company to change the balconies top without putting scaffolding up and all this, we buy our materials ourselves, but we can't buy it as Mimco. If we can do this, then what we do is, if we go to Griff and we say, look, if you go to court, it's going to cost you £10,000. If we go to court, it'll cost you £10,000. If you're prepared to put up 25 grand
to support this,
we'll put up the difference and make the thing happen. Because if we can do it for 30, 35, then the job's sorted. And Griff it's better for Griff to pay 20 or 25 grand than have to pay 150 like Watson are asking for. And they might be open to doing a deal with us. And if it costs us 10 grand, between, I don't know, 136,000, that's a couple of £100 each, isn't it?
Yeah.
I do see where you're coming from on that one. But going back to this relevant leaseholder thing, I'd like to see, and the government funding, I'd like to see those options explored first before, because let's be honest, even at a couple £100, a lot of people aren't going to be able to afford it. They're not.
Well, we don't charge them. We just take it out the fees. 10 grand out of our fees is nothing.
But it won't be 10 grand though, Paul, will it? It'll be...
If it's 35 grand and Griff put up 25, it'll be 10 grand. You can lose 100, 200 quid on Watson's commission on a job.
But if you say it's 1,300 quid a balcony...
Is James trying to come in?
I don't know. If you say it's 1,300 quid a balcony and there's 130 flats, that's 170,000.
Well, divide 136. Let's assume we do floor 2, 4 and 6. So ballpark is what, say 19 apartments on a floor, I think.
Yeah. So there's 60 apartments to do.
19 times 1,200 as a ballpark kind of figure. And I'm sorry, I'm just not in a mental place. I've been watching Pirates of the Caribbean all day. I'm, distracted. I can't do maths.
72,000 then.
That's ballpark going to work out, if we had to pay it all, circa what? 550, 600 quid each.
And if we get 50% support from Griff,
it's down to 250, 300.
Yeah. And quite frankly, if you said to me I could have an EWS certificate on my property tomorrow for 200-300 quid, I'd bite your hand off. And if you said it was getting paid out the management fees, I
don't think we've got money to pay out the management fees. I'm looking at the likely cash flow. I just don't see that we've got the money.
But
it would have to be an extra.
Tomorrow.
I mean, it's a fair point. We can work that out later. But
yeah. If we've got a managed trading company, we could take a small loan on to do it and pay it back over 3 years.
But the main thing is not mess about with Mimco in the status that it is at the moment, because if we start to trade Mimco and Mimco goes bust down the line because it loses Jones' case or it loses whatever else, then that it's not protected by that dormant status. So there needs to be a fresh mill management right to manage company set up as a right to manage company that can then...
If you just have a look, James has just sent some stuff through which I think is kind of relevant.
Can you have a look at it?
Feedback from Ed from the letter yesterday.
Which letter?
The email we got from... I've looked into the letter more closely. What the Solid said is sort of correct, as I warned you it might be. But in fact, I think having thought about it, you are going down the wrong path.
Well, we would be.
Trading is registered, the company is registered as trading, which should be blah, 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 blah. Okay.
It doesn't understand.
It doesn't understand the difference between active, meaning that it's registered, and dormant, meaning that it's not trading. So it can be active.
Active means it's just
live.
live.
Active just means it's incorporated.
Active means there's a car in the garage.
Right, we get that analogy.
Sorry.
Without the protection of the dormant status, the head lease becomes at risk if the company then were to fold later down the line. That's the point I was trying to explain to him. However many days ago we had the horrible meeting.
Yeah. I've had many active companies, but they were dormant. So it's active because I've set it up and registered and said, oh, look.
What's he saying? So, notwithstanding the personal negative credit issues at a time when nobody needs to be struggling with credit, that putting a company into liquidation now threatens... Who's putting a company into liquidation?
You see, at no stage have we ever said put the company into liquidation. What we said is it could be an option that we might have to look at.
If you start trading it,
yeah.
But if nobody touches it or does anything to it or don't get it a bank account, just leave it.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't understand.
I think, to be honest, I think there's a very possible chance that you guys are right. There's a very possible chance that he might be right. I don't think we're ever going to get... I think we need to engage an actual lawyer. I appreciate as qualified as Ed is and as experienced as you are. I think we do need to engage an actual lawyer.
His qualifications in this realm. Ed has no qualifications in law.
Personally, I don't subscribe to this someone has to be qualified malarkey that was banded around. But I think in fairness, he is qualified.
As part of my first degree and my second degree, I did law as a subsection. I'm not going around telling people I've got a degree in law.
Yeah.
The fact is, Ed has got a law degree. If it was worth any salt, he'd be a lawyer. So, okay, he's maybe got a better understanding, or maybe he hasn't, because if he's got a law degree, why isn't he a lawyer? Why hasn't he pursued the law? Because he purports and writes and says, I am legally trained. Well,
I don't get what his letter here is wanting, what outcome he's wanting from it. Let me just read it.
I haven't read the letter part of it properly yet. I think my concern here is that I don't want to derail a meeting that we could have with them and Watson's where they continue to throw Watson's and the old board under the bus, because that's manna from heaven anyway.
At the end of the day, Stuart,
we need to get a proper lawyer on this.
Yeah, at the end of the day, Stuart, we've come across this information. We've never said let's liquidate the company. We just said these could be options we might, when we get proper advice, might want to do. Now,
but trading Mimco, we need to get. If anyone thinks that that's the right route, that just needs to be double checked, because to set Mimco up as trading,
yes,
is
dangerous.
Is very risky for the head lease, particularly with active court cases. So that just needs circling off before and before people think that that's the right.
And this is what Foz has said in his information. What's he saying, Steph?
I'm just reading it.
Oh, can I just ask you a slightly different question? Have you been on holiday or something? You seem to have a cracking tan. Either that or my contrast is off on my monitor.
No, he just
It's like
he looks at the
Dickinson.
sun. He looks at the sun.
Honestly.
Yeah. It's not genetic.
It hasn't transferred.
I'm in bloody Dubai and I'm whiter than you.
Julie, do you have any about the research that we found? Is there anything else does it make sense, or is that all right?
I'm unsure with the conflicting information. There's lots of information bandied about on both sides, and it's a bit mind blowing really to decide which is right without, like you say, getting a lawyer in and giving us the actual facts, I suppose.
I think Julie's basically the same as me. She's taken on board the points that you guys have raised and has questions about it, and then we've got James throwing in his side of it, and it's just I can't join the two different opposing views together.
Yeah, then it's very confusing sometimes with it.
Yeah.
If I can just come in and say, we don't have an axe to grind. We have no issue. All we've done is we've come across this information. We can confirm definitely that for including last year, Mimco has non-trading status. That is done for a reason. I don't know the reasons. I'm not a lawyer. All I'd like to do is before we go sticking our size 10 boots into anything, I'd like someone who is qualified in this area to have a look at it. That's all I am asking. I'm not precious about it. If we're wrong, at least we've flagged it up for people to have a look at. But I think it's absolutely essential we know, because when it was set up, it was done for a reason. And if you look at, Julie, you can look at Company's House, look up Mimco Limited, and you will see all the filing done for the last 20 years, and every year Mimco, which is IMC LO, not LO, is it? It's,
No, you can find it.
Yeah. Is a non-trading company. At Company's House.
Yeah, I've looked
And
at
it's
Company's
free.
House.
Yeah. It's absolutely free to do that.
I know, she said she's done it.
Oh, you've done it? Oh, good.
Yeah.
So it's done for a reason. Now, I don't know what the reason is.
So maybe then as a next step, we need to ask, because Mimco can't do anything for itself effectively, because it doesn't do anything, but we need to ask Watson just to have a company law lawyer, so we need to just engage one for 2 hours.
I don't want to go through Watson's on this at all, because A, it will get back to everyone in the world against us that we're asking these questions.
You can't go through Watson's. You can't trust Watson's.
And B, the information we're going to get back from them if they appoint someone, they're going to go to PM Legal, which is our friend Cassandra, who we think is already in a conflict of interest. I think what we should be saying to Watson's is, we've got a number of issues, we're going to engage outside legal advice, we'll send you an invoice once we've received it. But I think as Mimco, we should make the direct approach. Can we do that, though, as a non-actioning, non-trading, doing nothing company? I mean, Watson's are going to be paying for it.
So it's one of them where we're already so far in that I think a judge would be hard-pressed to tell you that you couldn't get legal advice at this stage as a dormant company, because, yes, it would classify as a trading activity, but we wouldn't be paying for it, because it would be paid for from the bank account that is held by Watson's.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, guys, you have touched on something, because Julie and I had a brief discussion with DHC Beechcroft yesterday, and they have confirmed they're representing the insurance company. They're not representing Mimco, but they are representing Mimco. But they're not, if you know what I mean. Their client is the insurance company, and that kind of explains why. But we don't seem to have any representation, despite the fact Joan is taking us to court.
Well, Stu, this is what I need to speak to you about tomorrow, because, my God, I've been through all the old notes that we made. There are lots of things that that girl was not honest about, Stu, that concerns me. I mean, even the information, Stu, she gave you on that expert witness, and saying how the expert witness had been chosen. I've got all the notes, Stu. That is not why they chose that expert witness. We've got it written down from past conversations we've had.
I know what you mean. She was very cagey about that, because that expert witness, they originally put 3 people forward. One was not qualified. One was outright rejected by the claimant, because we believed at the time, not that we were speaking to the claimant, because we can't speak to the claimant, but, well, we could at that time. Basically, we believed it was a family member of the Sollets. You look at a picture of his wife versus Sandra Sollet, and they're both, I mean, Christ.
We weren't speaking to the claimant. We weren't speaking to the claimant. We were speaking to Mark. He is not the claimant.
Yeah.
That's true. That's actually true.
We were actually speaking to Mark, so we were not speaking to the claimant. And like she said the other day, we can't, speak to them now, which we don't speak to them about the case. We totally understand that. There's no way anybody's going to jeopardise that. But honestly, Stu, that's why I woke up thinking about it. I've got note after note after note in this book. I call me Millroyd book, and I write everything down, because I can't sometimes retain everything, so I write everything down, Stu.
Snap!
Yeah, I just make notes on everything. It's part of my job that I have to do in my daily job with traceability. It's all got to be accurate, so I write everything down.
I'm actually pretty good at remembering mill stuff, but that's come at the expense of actually remembering work stuff. So maybe I need to start writing stuff down as well.
And the fact, Stu, the fact that she did say something makes me think that she has spoken to the old board as well. I've got all the things down. I didn't enjoy that call with that lawyer girl tomorrow. I'm quite suspicious about her. But obviously, I will discuss it all tomorrow with you from what you've got, because you recorded it, so you can listen to it again.
Yeah. So, in terms of the stuff you guys have come up with, then, I'm of the opinion that I think we could have an entire month back and forth with James and Ed on this, and I don't think, I mean this with no disrespect to anybody involved, I don't think we'd be any further down the line in answering the questions. I think we've just got your findings, and then we've got a view that's very opposed to your findings, but not really a clear explanation of why it's opposed to your findings, and that's the part that's missing for me. And I don't think we'll get that with the best will in the world from Ed and James. So I think we do need, and James himself, I think, would be pragmatic enough to say, look, this is Ed's opinion, but he's not a lawyer.
Right.
Yes, he's experienced, he's qualified, blah blah blah, but he's not a lawyer. So I think it covers everyone's best interest, and for the sake of £1,500 max, let's just get a lawyer. Let's just get a lawyer on it.
Stuart, do you know James is still not a director?
He assured me he was going to do it Monday. He assured me he was going to do it Wednesday. I haven't spoken to him since, and I think Julie promised you he was going to register you both at some point this week. But,
just have a quick look at Credit Safe stuff. I pay through my business for a company called Credit Safe, and they give all the basically financial information on the company. So I am now looking at Mimco board. We're just about to open it up. Can you share the screen? So this is Credit Safe. It's a well-known. It's used by all the companies for credit checking. So if you go to Mimco, you've got it, and you go to directors and shareholders. So there's me first, bloody typical. There's all the directors. Now that is live. This is a live program. Yeah?
Yeah.
Just have a look at the event history. So...
Nick resignation of... Was that Jane?
Jane, yeah.
Jane, yeah.
So, as you say, I mean... You've not registered yet, Julie, either. I'm not having a go. I'm just saying you're not there yet.
No, James was registering me. I haven't got any information on registration. James has got the codes apparently for it.
Now this is something that concerns us. Look at negative information. If you look here, on the 1st of February, 23 this year, in a Mansfield
That's got to be something to do with Joan. That's probably something to do with Joan.
We've got a 3,000.
3,000.
3,600 judgment against us. We've tried to look that case up, but they're saying it's too soon and the details aren't on the registration list yet.
You can narrow that down with a bit of common sense. Who lives in Mansfield?
Who lives in
does it? Okay.
Right. But it's a CCJ against Mimco, which is a non-trading company. Now, can you show them the accounts? Is there somewhere where you can look at the part?
Absolutely, sorry. I know that's a lie there. I think Joan is Nottinghamshire, but Mansfield would cover Nottinghamshire, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So you can see there that if you go down the balance sheet, looking at that, there's absolutely no trading
across all the years.
Which makes sense because we don't buy anything; we just outsource everything to Watson's.
Yeah, we've got no credit rating.
But it should mean that you can't have any liability.
There should be something in this if it tells us what when you it's something I don't pay for. There should be something that gives you the look at image documents. Is there? No, I don't pay for that. There's something that gives you all the facts that we're not
General information. Last tab.
General information, is it there? So,
who is persons entitled? Who is AIB Group? Legal mortgage, third party, satisfied. I do remember something about there was a loan taken out.
It's Binks.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's something Binks.
That was when they sold it, when they gave Mimco away to us, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It says satisfied and it's not outstanding.
Yeah. So that was, AIB would have been one of Binks' companies. What, is there anything on the image document?
No, AIB was the mortgage company.
Was it? I thought
that Binks then paid off when they sold the land to Griff.
All right.
Anyhow, that's fine.
Image documentation?
There's nothing on there. We've checked it.
Okay.
I'm curious, actually. At some point, I can wait for another time. I was going to say, just do a search on DP World. I'm curious to see what. Yeah, I'm just curious to see what it says.
On who?
DP World.
DP.
I actually don't. Yeah, Delta. What's phonetic for P? Papa. Delta Papa space World.
Which one, Stuart?
Which ones come up?
There's about 6 come up.
Have I done the share screen? Is it on?
Sorry, Julie. I'm just curious.
There you go. Right. So DP World. Click on it, Stephanie. Worldwide trade?
No, it should be. I'd have thought it'd have been down as London Gateway or something like that, or just DP World Corporate.
DP World.
So there's Europe, Cranes, Holdings, Limited, Trading, Ventures.
Yeah, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
Just trying to.
If you tell us.
Have you got a company number?
It's an Emirati company number I've got.
Oh, right. Oh, it's non-trading DP World. Oh, look, and it's active. So there's a DP World Holding Company which is active, but it's non-trading.
Interesting. Anyway, sorry, I was just curious about that one. Yeah, so I think going back to our particular problem, I think we definitely need to engage outside legal advice, but I think when we speak to someone, we also need to be speaking to them from the point of view of bigger picture stuff as well, that we might need to engage them in different activities. But I don't know where that leaves them in terms of any conflicts of interest and what the limits of representation would be.
At the moment, all I want to know is what's the status of the trading company versus the non-trading company, what we need to do to get it accurate, and then I think we then set it up separately so Mimco is left as a dormant company.
That protects the head lease.
Which protects the head lease. And Millroyd Mills, it'll cost us £100 to set the company up, or less if somebody can do it, and then we can all become directors of it.
And that's a right to manage company that's set up properly as a right to manage company instead of this weird transfer of Mimco to the management board that was dodgy.
Yeah, and it strikes me that Binks have done it to avoid liabilities. They've not given us Mimco, and we shouldn't have accepted it.
No, I think at the time everybody viewed it as the first step to right to manage, and everyone viewed it as a positive move. We were getting control from Baines, blah, 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 and it's backfired on us all over the years. So the next plan then is, I think, you guys making provisional inquiries already with legal representation, yeah?
Yep.
And I think the person to talk to, without being devious, I think you talk to, what's it called, Foz?
Feroz.
Feroz. I think you talk to Feroz about getting a limited by guarantee management company set up. And that becomes the company.
Because he put something in the chat about that being the right approach to set up a right to manage company as a right to manage company.
Ross has always been quite keen on the right to manage thing. He does it at another one of his properties, and the complete administration of that facility under right to manage, it's taking them an hour a week, as opposed to the amount of effort we're putting in for something that should be a lot more simpler. So yeah, I think problem we've got with Feroz is he's just out of contact. But yeah, I think in the absence of reliable comms with Feroz, I think let's just start looking at a lawyer. We can obviously bring it up in the next board meeting and get everyone's agreement that we should sign off on a lawyer just to clarify these points. And I say, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I am, but I'm pretty sure even in the last meeting that James Ned sort of said their own opinion is that if it came to it, we had lingering questions, we should get outside legal advice as well. So I think that's the way forward on that one.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
What you've put together raises enough questions for me that I can't immediately answer, and the other guys haven't been able to give me a concise enough understanding. So I just think let's bite the bullet. I'm not sure what you think, Julie.
Sorry, say that
Julie?
again. Say that again, Stu.
I'm saying what the guys have come up with, and the fact that we don't seem to get a real understanding from anyone else looking at this. I mean, if someone was to definitively come back in writing and say this, end of discussion, I'd at least understand a little bit more. But I just don't think we'll get to that point looking at it the way we are. So I'm at a point where I just think we need to just run it past someone who is legally practicing. Julie?
So is that what you're going to look into, Steph?
I've got a friend who's getting she's a lawyer, like a proper company law lawyer, like in a big firm in Leeds. So I've had a couple of conversations with her and asked her to sort of recommend someone that is specifically in English
in this
property
area.
law. I've asked her to look at property law for EWS and assigning liability, because that was the bit we were working on, whereas this specific bit is more company law. So I can ask her to get me someone for company law, but property law is what I was asking my friend to find as a company that would do. So it's kind of like two people. One person to do the setup of what Mimco versus a management company needs to be legally, the dormant state, stuff like that. And then the separate fresh legal company for EWS and someone who's a real expert in English property law, because it's well complicated.
Right.
Is that okay?
That makes sense.
No, for me that's all right. I mean, Julia.
We're not wanting.
1 second, let Julie answer.
Sorry, Julie.
So I take it they're going to give us quotes on how much this is going to cost, then, is it?
Yeah, that would be the way that I think we should do it. The first person for the business set-up company law person would be maybe a commission for 2 hours. I can't imagine that would be a long piece of work. And then the EWS would be some kind of bigger piece that would need signing off by everybody.
Yeah.
Once the company law person has told us the best structure to take this forwards is X.
Right.
I would let people finish.
Julie just said right. I think that James gets hold of a bone, and it might not be the right bone, and he shakes it to death in quite a loud way, rather than just saying, let's have a look and see what we come up with. There might be nothing there. It might make sense to trade Mimco, and if we do, that's fine. But if we don't, the risk, it's worth somebody just finding out what the risk is. And unfortunately, James can't even fill a form in to become a company director. So if he can't do that, no, all right, I'm being sarky. But if he can't, I'm saying he hasn't yet done anything thorough. He hasn't tangible.
Yeah, but that's fine. That's his decision.
Yeah.
We just wanted to make people aware that this was what we'd found, and let's be careful because we're looking after everyone.
Yeah, I can't comment on James because he's not here to defend himself, and I don't think that's fair to say anything about somebody that's not on the meeting.
Well, that's fair enough. I've been out for a beer with James, and I like him.
Well, let's just leave James to one side because he's not here.
I was
think go to the meeting.
Yeah, and you were upset for me, but that's a different issue.
I think the meeting was a bit of a disaster last week because there was the time lag, which was just not helpful at all. It was horrific, and you guys didn't get a chance to put your points forward. So I do agree that I see why you were upset. But
yeah,
no, I also think
the time difference dictated how the meeting went last week.
Yeah, but I think I do agree though that it's great that people are certain of this X, Y, Z. And I actually had, not to bore you with the details, I had a good chat with James about something this week where he was saying that he knows this stuff, and how would I feel if someone was questioning me about shipping and stuff? And I can see he's got a very valid point. And I'm not disputing that, but I do think there is an element here of it's a minor thing. A qualified lawyer will spend, like Steph says, 2 hours on this. It's not going to cost that much, and will give us clear, concise, in written, something tangible we can work on going forward, rather than a very sweeping, possibly generic statement that might or might not be completely accurate. I'd rather, and you know, if it turned out that James was wrong, we would be negligent for not verifying that professionally. So I think we've got no choice. We have to verify it professionally, because at least then if the lawyer's wrong, we can go back to that person if we screw up because of that advice and say, well, this is the advice you gave us. It gives us that extra level of protection and something to go back on. So I think I'd rather just spend a couple £100 and get it right and put it all to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Stuart.
Perfect.
But any of you question me about shipping, and I know where you live, and I'll hunt you down, all right?
So I'll get some quotes then as a next step. But other than that, if anyone needs us for anything, just shout up.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining tonight. And
Thank you, Steph.
Sorry, go on, Paul.
No, I was just making a joke. Go on, Julie. I interrupt you.
No, I just said thank you. That's yeah. I'm glad I managed to get on.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, Julie. I appreciate your
listening to us.
That's absolutely fine.
Right, everyone enjoy the rest.
Yeah, have a good evening.
I appreciate all the work you guys have put into this.
Oh, no, like I said, it's just to clarify and to check, and yeah, that was all that we wanted to do.